This is 7 News.
Tonight, 4 hurt after a runaway trailer smashes into their car on the freeway. A lifetime of possessions go up in smoke in a house far north of Adelaide. And a suicide bombing in Israel claims 17 lives and injures dozens more.
With John Riddell.
Good evening. First tonight, 4 people have had a brush with death on the southeastern freeway as a trailer broke free from a prime mover, smashing into their car. The 2 men and 2 women are in the Royal Adelaide Hospital, with emergency workers amazed they survived the impact.
Free at last. It took emergency crews more than 45 minutes to remove the female driver from the twisted wreckage.
The lady who was the driver obviously has taken the full brunt of the impact, and that caused the entrapment.
Her 3 passengers were taken from the car by passing motorists. 2 nurses happened to be driving behind the station wagon and were able to give them immediate emergency treatment.
Typical of accidents, another fraction of a second, and it may have been a lot worse. Given the size and the weight of the trailer, it could have been 4 fatalities that we could have been looking at.
The Adelaide couple and their American friends were driving up the freeway about 5 kilometres from the Mount Barker turnoff when the Semi's trailer hit them. Police believe the Semi's brakes locked up and the Semi's trailer broke away from the prime mover. It careered across the median strip, smashing into the Ford station wagon as it travelled along the uptrack. Major crash investigators are looking into the accident. It's not yet known whether any charges against the Semi's driver or the company will be laid. Ambulance crews rushed all 4 of the vehicle's occupants to the Royal Adelaide Hospital, where tonight they remain in a serious condition. Kate Dorsey, 7 News.
And emergency crews are at the scene of another bad accident, this one on Victor Harbour Road at Old Nollunga. 3 cars collided around 4:30 this afternoon. It's believed one of them was trying to overtake at the time. 3 people had to be treated in hospital, but fortunately none are suffering life-threatening injuries. Traffic has been diverted along Robinson Road while the scene is cleared. An 80-year-old Gawler West man has spent today sifting through the ashes of his possessions after his home went up in flames. The blaze wiped out a collection of household goods which the local council had declared fit for the dump, but which Tom Gainsborough had spent a lifetime collecting.
This galvanised iron shed in Britton Road used to be home for 80-year-old Tom Gainsborough. Tom used to camp here when he wasn't staying at his fruit block in the Riverland. Just after 9 o'clock last night, Tom returned home to discover the shed ablaze. Fire crews could do nothing to save the building, which was jam-packed with household goods, washing machines, books and 3 electronic organs.
You get used to losing things when you're old. You can't do anything about it, so why grieve over it?
A few weeks ago, vandals set fire to some tree prunings in Tom's backyard.
Fellas around here, they've got no conscience. They just set fire, break windows and things. Teenagers mostly.
The damage bill is around $40,000 and the fire has put an end to Tom's plans to put a transportable house on the block. The council had given Tom 6 months to clean up the property. Now, with everything destroyed and no insurance, he's off to the Riverland to live in a caravan.
Be free as a breeze there. I live on a health diet and plan to live to 100 if I can. Chris Warren, 7 News.
Overseas and world leaders have condemned the latest terrorist attack in Israel, which has killed at least 17 people. An apparent suicide bomber targeted a packed nightclub, causing chaos in Tel Aviv's busy entertainment district.
Bloodshed by the beach. Tel Aviv's popular boardwalk, lined with restaurants and bars, the latest terrorist target. The suicide bomber mingled with young people waiting to enter a nightclub, then set off the bomb.
Boom! This happened. A lot of bodies.
30 ambulances, paramedics and police converged on the scene, a nearby hospital overwhelmed by casualties. There'd been no warning and most of the dead are teenagers. The attack has shocked the Israeli government, which has laid blame directly on Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat.
The aim is to kill Jews or Israelis wherever they are. And these are simply outrageous crimes that are not forgivable.
But the PLO has condemned the bombing, and neither the radical Islamic Jihad nor Hamas have claimed responsibility. But Hamas had previously promised 10 suicide bombings. So far, it's carried out 8. US President George Bush labelled this act a heinous attack against innocent young civilians. Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon has called an emergency cabinet meeting, possible retaliation high on the agenda.
It's most definitely a pressure to act because reality has changed in the last 24 hours.
Adrian Rochella, 7 News.
13 members of Nepal's royal family, including the King and Queen, have been wiped out in a bloody massacre at the Royal Palace in Kathmandu. The killer, the heir to the throne, gunned down his relatives before turning the weapon on himself.
It was a family feud that proved fatal. Over dinner at the Royal Palace, Crown Prince Dipendra reportedly argued heatedly with his mother, Queen Ashawa, over his choice of bride. Minutes later, she and King Birendra were dead. Their son, wearing military fatigues, opened fire on the gathering, killing his parents, brother and sister, and at least 8 other family members. The 30-year-old prince then turned the gun on himself. The royal family had firm ties with Australia, supporting the work of the Fred Hollows Foundation in Nepal, and the killer himself led the Nepalese delegation to the Sydney Olympics.
You know, I met the Crown Prince last year. We had a function for him when he was here for the Olympic Games, and he seemed such a nice fellow. I just can't believe that this has happened.
Tonight, riot police patrol the crowds outside the Royal Palace, and the appointment of a successor is already in train. Sally Young, 7 News.
It's emerged that the administrator of OneTel has been involved in negotiations to sell off parts or all of the embattled phone company. The news comes after a raid on OneTel's headquarters by the Australian Securities and Investment Commission.
Investigators headed for OneTel's management suite armed with boxes and a search warrant.
Told people not to touch their computers or to touch their work, just to sort of pack their goods and go home.
As staff walked out, a team of Federal Police and Securities Commission officers downloaded every computer, photographed documents and seized papers.
A lot of people feel pretty betrayed there, and this kind of just was the final straw for most people, and they packed their bags and got out pretty quickly.
Former OneTel boss Brad Keeling was there, but spent most of today behind locked gates at his Mossman waterfront mansion.
Not all of OneTel's assets have disappeared. The administrator has found that the company was a major shareholder in 3 other phone operators overseas, and they're all making money.
The administrator is now trying to sell them off in a multi-million-dollar fire sale. The appeal to OneTel customers continues. Rather than the blunt Optus disconnection threat, Telstra is offering to keep their phones online.
All that we are doing is trying to give them assurance and give them a sense of security.
Darren Curtis, 7 News.
After the break, detainees go on a rampage at a detention centre in WA. An animal rights campaigners stage a cheeky protest in the city. There's been another outbreak of violence at an immigration detention centre in Western Australia. More than 200 asylum seekers went on a wild rampage at the Curtin Detention Centre after some were told they were to be deported.
200 illegal immigrants held in detention near Derby rioted overnight after 56 were told they could not stay in Australia.
A number of people feigned collapse and that became a signal to others to try and interrupt the arrangements that were taking place.
Staff used tear gas as rioters rampaged.
And they took branches, broke them into forms of battering rams and used them against the windows. They lit a fire in the dining room.
800 illegal immigrants are held at Curtin. The isolated centre suffered this destruction in April. There's also been violence at Port Hedland and Woomera in South Australia. Asylum seeker supporters say mandatory detention's a major cause.
We know that in countries where people are accepted into the community while their claim is assessed, that there aren't these outbursts of violence.
The Minister defends detention and he won't hold an inquiry. The Immigration Department says the task of determining whether charges will be laid could be a long and difficult one. Many of those involved had their heads wrapped in towels to hide their identity. Deborah Bishop, 7 News.
Overseas again, and a siege situation is continuing in the United States where 5 brothers and sisters, protected by guns and a pack of dogs, are holding police at bay. There are now fears the children are becoming increasingly desperate as they run low on food and water.
Still no sign of the frightened children who have barricaded themselves inside their Idaho farmhouse, armed with guns and surrounded by 27 wild dogs. The only breakthrough, the surrender of one of the siblings, 15-year-old Ben McGuckin. He's now helping authorities with information about his 2 brothers and 3 sisters, aged 8 to 16.
Are there, in fact, guns? Is there a risk factor? Which the answer is yes. And, you know, are the kids okay? He thinks they're probably very short of water.
The 4-day standoff began when police arrested their mother for child abuse.
This resolution of this standoff, so-called standoff, has got to begin with the release from custody of Joanne McGuckin and the rescission of the order giving custody of her children over to the government.
The area has become a safe haven for white separatists. In 1992, 3 people were killed in a similar standoff between federal agents and a family at nearby Ruby Ridge. As violent as their childhood has been, psychologists say the children raised to fear authority believe they're in the safest place, at home and together. Police are prepared to wait until the children believe it's safe to come out. In the United States, Mike Amor, 7 News.
The fur was flying in Rundle Mall today, with animal rights campaigners accusing a women's clothing chain of cruelty to rabbits. Animal liberationists donned costumes to drive home their point at the Witchery store, claiming battery rabbits were being used to make fur coats. The demonstration took on a decidedly breezy note, but store staff decided to turn the other cheek. Did you get the seat back all right?
Where are you going to go?
Got it back in time? Time now for sport, and another big win for the Port Adelaide boys.
Yep, in the second spot, and if Essendon get rolled by about 50 goals tonight, they could be top.
We're going to the top.
See how they go, not likely. All the AFL highlights after the break, plus golf, tennis, and Australian soccer celebrates its finest hour. Welcome back. Port Adelaide has moved into second spot on the AFL ladder after beating Hawthorn by 43 points at the MCG. With skipper Matthew Primus back in the ruck, the power midfield again led the way. The Hawks had no answers without Ren, Crawford or Chick. The Primus-Wren matchup never happened after the former Crow ruckman failed to run out. But doing plenty of running early was Cockatoo Collins, while Nick Stevens started in sensational style.
Beautifully done by the Parrot. Chance for Stevens. He's good on the run and makes good.
Port was slick in the middle, at times too slick for its own good. But such was the dominance, Hawthorn only stayed in touch by luck rather than design.
Quite make it. It was touched, I reckon. Mead reckons it was. The umpire's not sure here. There he is.
Stevens was racking up plenty of touches in the second term, and Wanganeen chipped in with a signature goal. But the Hawks' Hay decided to unload from 70 metres.
Loads it up. Has it got enough? It has.
It reduced the half-time margin to 11 points, but the third quarter has been Port's all season, and today was no different.
Dew running hard, still Dew running hard, still Dew running hard, still Dew running hard, and kicks a hard goal.
2 late goals kept Hawthorn in the game at the last break, but Port could sniff second spot.
He's on fire too.
To Dew, he likes it from here, 52 metres out, goes, and goes.
The margin ballooned, the game had died, except no one told Gavin Wanganeen.
Can he finish this off with a miraculous goal? A la Matthew Larkin, Wanganeen has kicked a goal.
And here's what the winning coach had to say after the match.
You know, they're coming off a loss. They only lost one for the year. That indicated something, that they're a fair side. They're playing in their home ground. We hadn't beaten them here, so we don't win in Melbourne often, and we don't win on the MCG. So I think if you factor all those things in, you'd say, you know, the odds were that the odds makers made us the underdogs. Right. On board, Franco and Stevens were just outstanding. You know, they got, you know, very closely tagged again and just worked their way right through the game, and I thought that was very significant.
And with one Western Australian coach already sacked, the pressure's mounting on another. Ken Judge's West Coast slumped to their 16th loss in 19 matches. Led by Scott Camperelli and Simon Beaumont, Carlton gave them a football lesson at Optus Oval.
Carlton hosted West Coast for the first time in 5 years, and the signs weren't great for the Eagles. Beaumont happy to check side one through on his preferred left.
He gets onto it and skillfully puts it through.
Rowan Jones brought one back for West Coast. Little did they realise it would be their only goal of the half. The Eagles put little pressure on the Blues, and they were made to pay time and time again. The plan was pretty simple for Carlton. Win the ball in the midfield. Camperelli did it 23 times to half-time and hit one of 3 big targets in attack. Whitnell worked his way back into top form. Beaumont made it look like a Tuesday night training.
Massey will straighten. Give it to Beaumont. Beaumont for his third goal. Brilliant football
The frustration got to Mark Miranda.
Hits the post and then kicks the ball and gives away a 50-metre penalty.
The Blues grinding the Eagles into the dirt to the tune of 119 points.
Camperelli to the goal square to roll through.
And Wayne Carey's horror season continues. He's set to miss the next 6 weeks after tearing ligaments in his left ankle. But the Roos didn't miss him last night, making light work of the Bulldogs for a 46-point win. Dion Heyman, 7 News.
And in local football, West Adelaide upset Central at Richmond. The Eagles returned to the top of the ladder with a comfortable win over Sturt, and South took care of Glenorg at the Bay. Looking at the ladder, the Eagles lead Port, which plays winless North at Alberton tomorrow. Central, Nord and West make up the top 5 just ahead of South. And Australia is celebrating one of its finest moments in soccer after Frank Farina's men upset the world's #1 ranked nation at the Confederations Cup in South Korea. France fielded an experimental team, but that shouldn't detract from an outstanding Australian performance. Clayton Zane scored the only goal of the match.
It was the world champions on the attack early.
Well, he looked a certain scorer from a header there. Look at that, what a straightforward chance it was.
After half-time, the game opened up for the Socceroos.
There might be something for Australia this time. It was a curler and close.
8 minutes later, French captain Frank Leboeuf earned a yellow card. Josip Skoko took the free kick.
We know Skoko can hit them, and he hits it well, and fingered against the upright, and in. Australia have the lead through Zane. What a start and what a goal in the second half for Australia. Clayton Zane with a goal he will never forget.
At the other end, almost the equaliser in the 87th minute.
The header is good. Oh, and a brilliant save by Schwarzer.
Australia 1-0. They next play Korea tomorrow night. Nick McArdle, 7 News.
And Leighton Hewitt is through to the 4th round of the French Open. He'd gained the upper hand from Andy Roddick when injury forced the US teenager to retire. Top fancies Gustavo Kuerten and Juan Carlos Ferrero also won through, but Yugoslavia's Jelena Dokic was beaten in 3 sets.
Clay court tennis has a reputation for being somewhat tiresome at times, but when the future of the men's game took to centre stage, with caps on backwards, the Roland Garros faithful soon came back to life. Hewitt came up against tenacious American teenager Andy Roddick, whose booming serve and thunderous forehand forced the Aussie to scramble for everything.
He got it, got away with it.
The pumped-up American saved 7 set points in the first set, forcing a tiebreaker, and showed few nerves as he continued to unleash.
Oh.
Hewitt blowing the first set as Roddick took the tiebreaker 8-6. With the Hewitt camp in shock, the 6th seed was forced to mix up his game and gained an early break in the second.
Beautiful change-up.
He went on to serve out the set, but early in the third, disaster for Roddick, who overstretched trying to chase down a Hewitt forehand. He received attention, attempted to play on against his coach's wishes before eventually retiring in tears. And Jelena Dokic has suffered a surprise defeat, going down to Hungarian qualifier Petra Mandula in 3 sets. Paul Gregg, 7 News.
To golf, and it's been Kari Webb's day at the US Open. Following her first round 70, she fired a course record 65 to take the lead. Wet weather forced many of her challengers off the course early. They'll have to complete their second rounds tomorrow.
With 105 players still to complete or start their second rounds, Webb is sitting pretty after a flawless 18 holes. As the putts started to fall, she reminded all of why she is the defending champion and has won 3 of the past 6 majors. On the second, she was fooled by the wind and left her 6-iron approach short of the green. Simply aiming to get her chip close to the cup, she watched it trickle into the hole for birdie. Most of her approaches were laser accurate, including the sand wedge to 10 inches on the 4th. She parred the final 3 holes to complete a memorable round, but 13-year-old Morgan Pressel's US Open experience is coming to an end. She's 14 over with 2 second-round holes to play. And Australia's made a positive start to its tour of England. On the first morning of a 3-day match against Worcester, it lost some early wickets. Hayden gone for 20, Mark Waugh caught at mid-off for 13, and captain Steve Waugh bowled for 30. But with Australia awkwardly placed at 5 for 134, Damien Martin came to the rescue. With Shane Warne providing the sting in the tail, the pair added 148 for the 7th wicket. Warne made 68 and Martin hit 19 fours and 2 sixes in his 108. Australia all out for 351 and Worcester 1 for 50 in reply. Paul Dowling, 7 News.
That's sport, Jack. Big day tomorrow. 9 o'clock Sports World. Matty Primus is on there. 11:30 the National Soccer League Grand Final. 2:30 Adelaide and Geelong.
Go the double.
Sit by the TV.
Thanks. Cherylee joins us after the break with weather news for the rest of the weekend, and the Wheel of Fortune rolls into town.
Representing South Australia, first of all, John.
Good evening, everyone. We had a cloudy day and there were a few showers recorded. Those northwesterly winds did keep temperatures down a little today, up a little today, with our maximum reaching 19.9 at 3:30 this afternoon. And overnight we had a very early low of 10.3 at 7:30 last night. Right now it's 16 degrees in the city. The main feature on our satellite image tonight is this band of cloud moving up toward our southern coastal areas. It's already produced as much as 12 millimetres of rainfall at Cape Willoughby this afternoon. Flying in from the southwest, you can see another front which is due to arrive on our western border districts late on Monday, bringing more significant rainfall to most of our state by Tuesday, with some showers on Wednesday. Looking at the charts, this first cold front will arrive overnight and it may bring a few more showers to the southern coasts overnight. Then tomorrow we'll get northeast to northwesterly winds around that high pressure ridge, so mild conditions at first on Monday, with cloud increasing and the winds will start to freshen ahead of that second front here, which will bring wet and windy weather to most districts on Tuesday, as well as showers and gale force winds on Wednesday. Interstate tomorrow, a few showers expected over in Perth, mainly fine conditions for Darwin, Alice Springs and Broome. Showers up in Cairns, but mainly fine elsewhere. Well, back home today, we had a few isolated showers over the southern coastal areas, with Cape Willoughby receiving 12 millimetres at around 4 this afternoon. Temperatures were above average. They ranged from 27 degrees at Marla down to a mild 14 at Kaipo. Our forecast is for a few early showers about the southern coastal districts overnight, clearing early tomorrow morning with some isolated frost and fog patches. Then tomorrow we'll have a partly cloudy day, but it will stay mainly fine with cool to mild temperatures. On our local waters, variable winds of 5 to 10 knots, tending northeast to northwesterly during the day, with calm seas to half a metre. In the city, dropping down to 9 degrees tonight, then a few early showers with a top of 18 tomorrow. And looking ahead, cloud increasing on Monday, with rain down to 16 on Tuesday, then windy with showers on Wednesday. On our 7-day forecast, the winds and showers will start to ease later in the week, with temperatures staying in the mid-teens. That's it from me. Good night.
Thanks, Cherylee. Well, shoppers at Westfield Marion could have been forgiven for thinking they'd stumbled into a television studio today. A full-scale game of Wheel of Fortune has been in session at the centre, complete with all the show's stars.
Representing South Australia, first of all, John, thank you, Steve, thank you, Sandra, consolation prizes.
The team's looking for contestants to play for South Australia in the show's 20th anniversary State Challenge later this month. They did well. Stay with us now for the World Around Us. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.